Hello and welcome to part 1 of the Cartoon Myths and Urban Legends Iceberg. If you don't know what an iceberg is, it is basically a chart containing different entries of a topic, with tiers ranging from most known at the top to least known at the bottom. This is my first video, so I'd love to hear feedback in the comments, and if you end up enjoying the video, make sure to like and subscribe because it will help out a lot. This video will cover numerous sensitive subjects, so a trigger warning is in place. This iceberg was created by Semideus, I think that's how it's pronounced, on the r/iceberg chart subreddit, and I will leave a link to it in the description. I'm Fright from Frightopia, and let's start the dive on this iceberg. Level 1 of the iceberg. Lost Episodes Creepypasta. This entry of the iceberg is basically about the specific genre of creepypastas called Lost Episodes. These typically involve stories where the author talks about an episode of a television show that was either lost or never aired. The author usually is a member of the production of the show, someone who obtains a VHS tape containing the lost episode, or someone who finds it on television late at night. These episodes usually deviate from the respective TV show's typical tone or theme, and usually focus on dark topics such as death and depression. The quality of these episodes are also described to be much lower than usual as well. Some of the most known lost episode creepypastas include stories such as Dead Bart and Squidward. Coma Theories. Coma theories are fan theories that a plot of a show, movie, or any other type of story is a dream of its main character, which is mostly speculated to be a coma. The most popular coma theory is Ash's coma theory from the show Pokemon, which believes that all episodes after episode 1 are coma-induced dreams. This specific coma is thought to be due to the events of episode 1, where Ash steals Misty's bike to get Pikachu to the Pokemon Center after he is seriously injured. At one point, Ash falls and he takes a bit of time to get up. This theory suggests that when he falls, he sustains a concussion and his coma starts. This is used to help explain why Ash doesn't age throughout the series and remains the age of 10 throughout the numerous seasons of the show. These types of theories are used for numerous other cartoons like The Simpsons and expands to non-cartoon shows such as The Walking Dead as well. Purgatory Theories. Purgatory theories are once again a type of fan theory that states that the events of a given show take place in Purgatory, where the souls of the people that cannot cross into heaven are trapped, with all of the characters being dead in reality. The most popular Purgatory theory surrounds the children that live in the cul-de-sac in Ed, and Eddy. This theory believes that the children have all died in different time periods ranging from the early 1900s to the early 2000s. Rolf died first in the 1900s due to his family's farm animals stampeding him. This tries to explain that the reason that Rolf does not have very many animals in this supposed afterlife is so that there is not enough to stampede him. The next to die was Johnny 2x4, who died in 1922 due to tuberculosis. During his life he did not have many friends, so he drew a face on a piece of wood and named it Plank. Since Plank was the last thing he saw before he passed, he took it with him to the afterlife. This is supported by Plank's occasional sentient behavior. Eddy died next, during the Great Depression. Eddy would scam other children, but one day his scam failed and he was chased into a lake by the other children, which he drowned in, continuing his scams in the afterlife. Ed and Sarah passed away next. This theory believes that their father died in World War II, causing their mother to become distant from them. This family structure causes Sarah to develop her bossy nature, trying to fill the void of the parenting. Ed did the opposite and enjoyed exploring the fantasy world that movies and comic books provided in this post-World War II era. Their pair would end up dying in a car crash in 1953. Naz was born in the 1960s and was very flirtatious to the boys in her neighborhood. In the summer of 1979, a serial killer broke into her house and her and killed her along with her family. I feel like this one might be a little too far for an Ed and Eddy theory, but I guess this kind of all is in a way. Anyways, Ed, or Double D, as he is also called, was born in the 70s to parents that pushed him to be a perfect child. He would pass away due to a gas leak that exploded when using a Bunsen burner from his chemistry set. Kevin was born around the early 1980s to a broken home with a single abusive and alcoholic father. He would release his anger and frustration by bullying other children in the neighborhood. Unfortunately, his father would drunkenly beat him to death in the winter of 1999. And when going on to the afterlife, he reimagined his father as extremely caring, but he still continued his bullying. Jimmy was the last child to die, being born in the early 1990s. He was diagnosed with leukemia and was forced to remain bedridden until passing away. Aspects of the show that people use as evidence to support this theory is that the tongues of the children, which are green and blue, look similar to how people's tongues look when they actually die, because the tongue turns a bluish color. The summer is also seemingly endless and the series really never changes setting. There's also a lack of adults and other children in the area. The theory even believes that the canker children are demons that torment the souls of the children that are in purgatory. This is due to the fact that the cankers have normal colored tongues, which suggests that they are not dead like the others, but rather something unholy. Simpsons Predictions. This entry is about the long-running TV show, The Simpsons, and how there are many instances of the writers of the show seemingly predicting the future. There are conspiracies that this is an example of predictive programming, which is the belief that governments and other powerful people use media forms in order to desensitize the masses of changes that will eventually occur. This is accomplished by creating subtle references to planned future events in media to allow the public to become subconsciously prepared for these developments to occur. Do I believe that the Simpson writers are controlled by the lizard people in the government? No, I don't. The Simpsons have been on air since 1989. And with the subject matter, I'd be surprised if they didn't accidentally predict the future a few times. Some of the events that the Simpsons have so-called predicted are the Donald Trump presidency, the Super Bowl winner 3 separate times, Lady Gaga's Super Bowl performance, FIFA corruption, and even the pandemic. Clockman. In 2012, a Microsoft Paint image floated around the internet that depicted a figure called the Clockman, emerging through a clock on the wall of a sleeping child's bedroom. The creator of this drawing stated he saw an animation about this Clockman 28 years ago, and it terrified him. His recollection of the story is this. It's of a young boy sleeping in his bed. Above his bed is a ticking clock. All the lights in the room are off and it's very dark. Suddenly the clock begins to slow down its ticking, and it eventually stops. On midnight. When the clock stops, a greenish-bluish man climbs out of the clock. The boy wakes up just in time to see this man, dressed in black, grab him out of bed and kidnap him by carrying him through a window. The Clockman takes the boy on some kind of terrifying adventure and brings him back to his bed before sunrise. The OP also stated that he watched this on Pinwheel, one of the first Nickelodeon series. After 5 years of searching, a Lost Media wiki forum user named Nitrate Nerd found this short on YouTube titled O Paradive Sally, maybe? I don't know, it's in Spanish. But this translates to About Dressy Sally. I will leave a link in the description if you're interested in watching it for yourself. Sesame Street Cracks. Cracks, also called Crack Monster, is an animated short on the show Sesame Street that originally aired in 1975, only to air 11 other times in a short 3.5-year span in the United States. It was likely withdrawn due to the fact that it is known to distress the young audiences. It was thought to be banned or even lost, until a man named John Armand received the copy from an anonymous source in 2009. The source said that he had to not only keep the name of the source a secret, but also that he could not distribute it. Obviously, the short eventually made its way onto YouTube. The short is about a young girl making friends with animals that she imagines from cracks in her wall. She eventually meets the crack monster, which looks like a face that growls and breaks apart until it crumbles in the ground. It's narrated with a singing voice and honestly is not too creepy, but I'll leave a link in the description if you're interested in finding out for yourself. A Day with SpongeBob Squarepants, the movie. A Day with SpongeBob Squarepants, the movie is an unauthorized and unreleased mockumentary that was supposedly made in 2011. It was created by Regal Films, who planned to distribute it under the pseudonym Innovision Films. It gained a large interest in 2014 because there was seemingly no information or proof of the film even existing, other than the 5-sentence plot summary on Amazon. How is this film not seen if it was on Amazon? Well, it supposedly was released for a single day on the website on November 22nd, 2011, before it went out of stock. The description on Amazon read, "In this mockumentary, SpongeBob lives above ground like all Hollywood superstars. Afraid that SpongeBob is becoming old news, his boss runs a contest called Spend a Day with SpongeBob. The contest makes SpongeBob the talk of the town, as thousands of kids enter to win. The lucky winner is Seth, and he is ecstatic about his day with SpongeBob. However, the day becomes a roller coaster ride as things don't go quite the way they planned." The search for the film continued until May 2016, when Lost Wiki user William Glover contacted the owner of Regal Films, Lorenzo Hawley, who stated that there were no copies available. Hawley also stated that there is a better version that could be made if people funded it, which obviously never happened. Then, in August of 2016, YouTuber Bedhead Bernie released a video called The End of a Day with SpongeBob Squarepants, The Animation Warehouse, featuring Zeepsterd, where he contacted the director, who remains unnamed, who stated that Regal Films was in fact the distributor of the film, not the producer. The film was never finished due to the budget, and the Amazon page was only started to see if there was public interest. Apparently, the director also released 5 undeveloped script pages online. There are tons of videos and images online that claim to be the actual film, most of which are easily found to be fake. If you decide to do research for yourself, please use the antivirus software if you visit the Regal Films website, for it has been reported to use malware, which the owner has obviously denied. But still, use antivirus software. I wouldn't trust a company that tried to make an illegal SpongeBob movie. Pixar Theory. Ah, the Pixar Theory. Who doesn't like a good old Pixar Theory? Come on. Anyways, The Pixar Theory is a theory that believes that all the Pixar films exist within the same universe. This is due to the amount of small/hidden references that Pixar films make about earlier Pixar films. It starts somewhere between the 14th and 15th century with the film Brave. The will-o'-the-wisps in the film turn Merida's mother into a bear with magic. This magic is used to explain why animals and inanimate objects can talk and act like humans in other Pixar films. This magic would also lead to superheroes. Next, in the 1950s and 60s, in The Incredibles, Buddy creates AI bots and high-tech zero-point energy to defeat the Incredibles. This zero-point energy would soon be absorbed by toys. In 1997 to 1998, in Toy Story, the toys started to come to life and create a code of rules. These toys also discovered that human love is a source of energy. And soon discovered in Toy Story 2 what happens when toys are isolated from these humans. This takes place in 1999 and is best shown through Jessie, who resents her owners and questions her purpose in life. This resentment in humans would also be shown by animals in 2003 with Finding Nemo. Fish are shown to be extremely advanced in the ocean with their own communities. Humans experiment on animals and pollute the earth, causing these animals to become even more resentful. For example, this experimentation is shown through Dory, for her experimentation caused her to become very forgetful. This experimentation is also evident in 2007 with Ratatouille, with Remy displaying very human characteristics such as reading, cooking, washing his hands, and walking like a human. This is the first time in the timeline we see human and animal interaction. However, it is evident that this is only because the animal wants to take control. In 2010, in Toy Story 3, toys are becoming very hateful of humans, being abused by them. Since they are being discarded left and right, some toys like Lotso try to take care of his own kind, one of the first signs of machines and objects starting to want to take over. Carl and Ellie from the film Up know about this hatred and plan to escape and live on their own. They write to Andy to get rid of his toys. Carl and Ellie obviously never fully finish their plan of leaving due to the tragic passing of Ellie. Carl finally puts the plan into action when he is forced to give up his home by a corporation thought to be By and Large, or B&L, in 2016. Carl discovers that humans can communicate to animals, and that animals are not very happy with humans. Charles Muntz trains an army of dogs. It is effectively the starting point of a war between humans and animals. The machines in B&L help the humans win the war, and then eventually sent them off into space in the Axiom ship, sometime between 2100 and 2200. The Cars eventually took over Earth, as seen in the film Cars. It is evident that this is Earth and not some other planet, because in Cars 2, cars go to places around the world such as Japan, and there are no signs of human anywhere. An oil crisis soon begins, causing the All-in Oil Corporation, run by B&L, to begin using green energy for cars. This green fuel would soon decommission a lot of cars, and the heavy use of oil made Earth unfit for life. This leads to the events of Wall-E, somewhere between 2800 and 2900, when the Earth has become completely uninhabitable by humans, and Wall-E is the last machine on Earth. The reason he survived on Earth is due to his friendship with a cockroach and his interest in human culture, which helped him to maintain a personality. The rest of the machines left Earth because they felt they no longer had a purpose, now that humans ceased to exist on the planet. Wall-E and Eve take on a sort of Adam and Eve role, starting over the human race on Earth by creating a new beginning. The plant inside the shoe in the credits of the film soon grows into a large tree, which is the tree in a bug's life, somewhere between 2,898 and 3,000. These bugs, unlike bugs in the past, have a much longer lifespan, which indicates that some form of evolution or mutation took place. At this point, humans are still extremely small in population compared to other animals. These animals eventually evolved to become the dominant species. Sometime between the year 4500 and 5000, animals have started changing greatly due to the radiation caused by B&L. They have evolved into monsters as seen in Monsters University and have accidentally wiped humans off the planet. At this school, they were taught that humans were toxic and from a different dimension. These monsters, as well as the machines, realized that they relied on humans for energy to sustain life. The machines solved this by allowing the monsters to travel back in time using the doors. This leads to Boo meeting Sully, and Boo becomes an extremely important character that ties this all together. Why is that, do you ask? Well, she never got over losing Sully, and became obsessed with finding him. She eventually learned how to time travel using wooden doors, and used the magic of the will-o'-wisp to attempt to find Sully. She leaves behind carvings of Sully and pizza trucks, her two favorite things, in wood in the movie Brave. She doesn't know what exact time period to go to find Sully, so all the Easter eggs in Pixar films are due to her time jumping. There are more complicated and more currently dated timelines, including more of the newer films. However, I didn't want to take too much time covering this topic because we still have a lot of topics to cover. If you guys want a full video detailing the timeline, let me know in the comments. And I will also leave links to interesting articles that detail the timeline and theory in the description. Mandela Effect. The Mandela Effect is when people believe that an event occurred differently than it actually has in reality. This term was coined by Fiona Broome in 2009, when a large group of people remembered that Nelson Mandela died in prison in the 1980s. The weird thing was, in reality, Mandela actually passed away in 2013. The Mandela Effect has also been seen when people discuss cartoons. For example, how is Looney Tunes spelled? The word tune has two O's, right? Actually, it is spelled tunes. T-U-N-E-S. And this is how you spell Berenstain Bears, right? Wrong. It actually spelled with an A instead of an E. Okay, this picture of Curious George looks normal, right? Also wrong. He doesn't actually have a tail. And speaking of tails, there's something wrong with Pikachu's in this picture. Can you find it? In reality, his tail is completely yellow. Okay, one last one to blow your mind. How do you spell Flintstones? If you said this, you're wrong. There's actually two T's in the word. Level 2. SpongeBob 7 Deadly Sins Theory. The SpongeBob 7 Deadly Sins Theory, which is actually a tongue twister, believes that each of the 7 main characters in SpongeBob represents one of the 7 deadly sins. SpongeBob represents lust, which typically means excessive sexual desire. However, it can also mean excessive love for others, which SpongeBob most definitely exhibits. He's extremely friendly towards everyone in Bikini Bottom, even towards those who treat him poorly, like Squidward. Patrick represents sloth, which means excessive laziness. He spends a lot of his time sleeping and never seems to put much effort into anything important. Sloth can also mean underutilizing one's talents. Patrick has been shown to have immense strength, picking up his rock and even becoming a karate master. However, he rarely uses the skill, and when he does, it's for his own personal gain, like stealing ice cream. Gary represents gluttony, which is the constant overconsumption of food and drink. Throughout the episodes of SpongeBob, Gary really doesn't do much other than eating and drinking. Sandy represents pride, which is the lack of regard for others and just a general egotistical mindset. Sandy is extremely competitive and does not seem to think about others. He attacks SpongeBob and Patrick for making fun of Texas, and even almost killed SpongeBob when he entered her home for the first time because she did not consider the fact that sea creatures cannot breathe without water. Squidward represents wrath, which is an uncontrollable hatred towards people in the world. This is obvious since Squidward is most known to be upset with SpongeBob and pretty much everyone else in Bikini Bottom. He also often seems to take pleasure in upsetting those who annoy him, especially SpongeBob. Mr. Krabs obviously represents greed, the obsession for money and material objects. He often puts his safety and the safety of others at risk just to make a quick buck. I mean, he sold SpongeBob's soul for 62 cents for Christ's sake. What more can I say? Finally, Plankton represents envy, which is the obsessive desire to have something that someone else has. Rather than focusing on bettering his recipe himself, throughout the whole show he is instead focused on stealing the formula of Mr. Krabs so that he can have his success. Candle Cove. Candle Cove is a popular creepypasta written by Chris Straub. The story begins when a user named SkyShale033 started a thread on the net nostalgia forum with the subject of Candle Cove local kid show. The user asked if anyone remembers the show, and they said that they watched it when they were about 6 or 7, sometime in 1971 or 1972. The user also stated that they lived in Ironton, Ohio at the time, and that this show was on a local channel. A user named Mike Painter65 responded, saying that they were about 9 years old at the time, and lived in Ashland, Ohio. They remembered the show being about pirates, and specifically remembered a pirate marionette at the mouth of the cave, talking to a little girl. The OP responds saying the pirate's name was Pirate Percy, and that they were always scared of the character because he looked very low budget, seemingly being made of parts of other dolls. He had an old porcelain baby doll for a head which did not match the rest of his body. The thread went quiet for a while until a user named Jaren_2005 responds, saying that Candle Cove ran for a couple months in 1971 on channel 58. The user then recollects that the show took place in Candle Cove, where a little girl imagines herself to be friends with pirates. The user also remembers there being a pirate ship called the Laughingstock. 3 users recollect about the plot of the show and how creepy it was to them as children. The bow of the ship apparently had a wooden smiley face with the lower jaw submerged, which made it look like it was swallowing up the sea. The ship would also talk and laugh, creepily switching from a wooden or plastic model to a foam puppet version when it did so. The creepiest thing that the boat would do was tell Percy that you have to go inside, with the camera pushing it on the boat's face after each pause. The villain of the show was a marionette called the Skin Taker, with a sidekick named Horace Horrible. The Skin Taker was a dirty skeleton with a brown top hat and a cape with large glass eyes that would descend out of nowhere. His hat and cloak was made of children's skin, and his mouth would slide back and forth when he talked. The little girl asked why his mouth did that, and he looked straight in the camera saying, "To eat your skin." OP then recollects a nightmare that they had as a child where the opening jingle for the show faded in from black. All the characters were there, and the camera cut to all their faces one by one, with all of them screaming. The puppets and marionettes were flailing about spastically, and the little girl was crying. User Kevin Hart, yes, the user was Kevin_Hart, responds that they remember that being an actual episode, so it must not have been a dream. User Jaren_2005 then responds stating that they also remember it too. The story ends with the final reply from Mike Painter65, who says they visited their mother at a nursing home and asked if she remembers the show from when he was little. She thought it was strange that he asked the question, for the user would say when he was little, "I'm gonna go watch Cove now, Mom," turning the TV to static, only to sit there and watch dead air for 30 minutes. So yeah, Cove has garnered quite a following since its release. It has spawned many fan-made videos of the show that you could check out. It even inspired a show called Channel Zero on the Sci-Fi Channel in 2016. I will leave a link to the full creepypasta in the description if you want to read it in full. Disney Subliminal Messages. This tier refers to the adult-based hidden messages that the writers sneak into Disney films. Examples include the female fans of Lightning McQueen literally flashing him, Anna stating that foot size doesn't matter, Linguini saying he has a little blank, followed by Colette looking down at Linguini's, and Mushu stating that he could see through Mulan's armor. There are plenty of more examples of these subliminal messages, and I mean plenty. If you're interested in seeing more, I encourage you to look them up. It's honestly a lot of fun. I Was a Teenage Gary deleted scene. I Was a Teenage Gary is a 1999 Halloween episode of SpongeBob Squarepants, where SpongeBob leaves Gary in the care of Squidward. Squidward forgets to take care of Gary, leading him to become sick. When SpongeBob returns, he calls a veterinarian, who tells SpongeBob to give Gary snail plasma. SpongeBob accidentally is injected with a snail plasma and turns into a snail. SpongeBob wants Squidward to help, and Squidward runs away because he thinks he's being attacked, only to accidentally inject himself with snail plasma. The scene then transitions to snail versions of SpongeBob and Squidward on a fence with Gary, meowing the tune of "Blow the Man Down." The episode ends with Patrick getting mad for being woken up, throwing a boot at the Squidward snail. What is the deleted scene, you ask? Well, many people who watched the show when it originally aired remembered seeing Squidward's full transformation into a snail instead of the current version, where there is a white transition in place of his transformation. People recall it being much more creepy than SpongeBob's transformation. People believe that this wipe transition was added after the premiere, since it is different from the normal bubble transition. People have searched for the deleted scene to no avail. A user on YouTube then uploaded the full first airing of the episode, which did not have the Squidward transformation. Some people use this video as proof that there was no Squidward transformation, while others believe that this recording was actually of the first rerun, instead of the original airing. Walt Disney was frozen. This entry is about an online rumor that Walt Disney's body was cryogenically frozen after his death in 1966, so that he can eventually be resurrected. Rumors were then spread that his body was located underneath the Pirates of the Caribbean ride in Disneyland, and that the movie Frozen was created so that people would stop seeing articles about Disney's frozen head when they googled the phrase Disney Frozen. Another rumor was that he was supposed to be thawed in December 2021, leading to him coming back to life. Obviously, Walt was not thawed in 2021, and obviously not frozen in the first place. These are just theories that people have come up with over the years since his death, and they're not very feasible, since Disney was reportedly cremated when he passed. Who knows though, maybe I'll be proven wrong. Kid drowns looking for SpongeBob. This entry is an urban legend that a 3-year-old kid on a cruise ship thought he saw a pineapple in the ocean. He told his parents, "Bye-bye, I'm gonna see SpongeBob," before jumping in the ocean and drowning before he could be rescued. This rumor was spread in 2002 and was supposed to lead to the cancellation of the show. Obviously this did not happen because the show is still going strong in 2022. Sailor Mouth Uncensored. Sailor Mouth was an episode of SpongeBob Squarepants, yes, another SpongeBob entry, that upset a lot of parents because the whole episode was basically SpongeBob and Patrick swearing. The swearing was obviously covered up with dolphin noises, and Mr. Krabs eventually joins in on the fun. Tom Kenny, the voice actor for SpongeBob, stated that they were originally supposed to use substitute words instead of the actual swear words when filming. This was obviously a little too difficult because it's weird to say substitute words instead of swear words, so they asked Nickelodeon to let them swear instead. He also said that there are clips of the characters swearing, however they are deep in the studio's archives. There are no official clips of this that exist, however there are some fan-made versions that exist online. Shaggy and Scooby stoners. This entry refers to the popular theory that Shaggy and Scooby are stoners. This is due to a lot of factors. The fact that they're always hungry, the fact that they live in a van that looks like, well, this, the fact that Shaggy looks disheveled all the time, and the fact that Shaggy is the only one that really understands Scooby. There are a lot of other reasons, but I think this is a fun theory that I honestly can get behind. Lion King plagiarized Kimba. This entry refers to the argument that Disney's legendary 1994 film, The Lion King, plagiarized the 1960s anime series, Kimba the White Lion. Both works are coming-of-age stories following an African lion cub whose father is murdered early on. Both have villains that are evil lions with black manes and scars over their left eyes. The villains also both have hyenas as henchmen. Early concept art for The Lion King even features Simba as a white lion, and the strongest piece of evidence is that several scenes and shots of The Lion King seemingly mirror scenes and shots in Kimba the White Lion. You might be saying that the name Simba is very similar to the name Kimba, so that must be another piece of evidence. Well, it could be, but Simba means lion in Swahili, so maybe not. Disney has of course since denied the claims that they plagiarized, which further infuriated the public. The president of Tezuka Productions, the company that created Kimba the White Lion, believes that Disney's The Lion King is original, and that if they did use some inspiration from their work, they would be honored. So despite having a pretty strong case, no lawsuit will probably be seen in the future.
Level 3. Rugrats Storyboard Jam. A storyboard is a sequence of drawings that is passed around between different members of a production crew of a cartoon show that typically turns out to be rather offensive and inappropriate. One such storyboard was created by the production crew of the show Rugrats in 1998, titled Incredible, which included Tommy giving Angelica a drink of dog food and Drano. The crew showed Steve Russell, one of the directors animators of the show, who was initially disgusted by the concept, but then decided to continue, and in my opinion, he went a little too far. He adds in Stu coming home and abusing the family, and Stu also makes some inappropriate comments to his daughter. And this obviously caused many of the artists to become disgusted with the drawings, for which some reason he continued doing. He then added a drawing of Stu with his pants down, before allowing some of the other artists to add on to it. The artist then for some reason created a lot of scenes that I'm just not going to get into because I just don't want to because it's gross. Russell then said he became disgusted with what it turned out to be, but I mean, kind of started it. One of the executive producers confiscated it when he found out, and he either destroyed it or locked it away. But page 3 was somehow recovered and leaked online by Russell, and I guess you can look it up if you want, but I don't really know why you would. And is it just me, or does Russell seem a little too proud of it? Like, why would he leak it? I don't know. Ed, and Eddy. Special Ed. Special Ed was a proposed episode of Ed, and Eddy that was scrapped because it became, quote-unquote, too real, which conflicted with the wacky style of the show. It was an episode that most likely focused on the character Ed, however, it never made it past the concept stage, so we will never really likely know what it's about. Calarts Style. Calarts is short for California Institute of the Arts, which has produced many animators for many of the current popular cartoon shows. The school has been known to teach an animation style that is called thin line animation, that includes simplistic character designs. These designs typically include bean-shaped heads, round eyes, and noodle arms, as seen in the shows such as Adventure Time, The Amazing World of Gumball, Steven Universe, and Gravity Falls, to name a few. This style of animation has been critiqued in the past couple years, with animators being called lazy for this style that has become popular in the 2010s. A lot of the characters across many shows look very similar due to this style. Personally, I enjoy the simplistic style from time to time, but let me know what you think in the comments. Computer Warrior Porygon dub. Computer Warrior Porygon is the 38th episode of Pokemon, first broadcasted in Japan in December of 1997. In its original airing, it contained a flashing strobe effect for a 4-second period when Pikachu used an electric attack that blew up some missiles. This effect caused around 700 people in Japan to suffer adverse health effects such as vomiting and epileptic seizures that landed them in the hospital. A controversy obviously ensued, causing the show to come off the air for about 4 months. It was banned from re-airing worldwide by the Japanese government, and the English dub version was supposedly created but never released. There are conflicting accounts on whether or not the English version was produced, because the English voice actor of Meowth said it was, but the English actor of Ash said it wasn't, so we don't really know. Also, a fun or maybe not so fun fact about the episode is that it caused Porygon, along with its evolutions, to basically not appear in any of the future episodes, except for pretty much like a movie cameo or something like that. This is because the franchise did not want to remind people of the incident and would rather Porygon be to blame than Pikachu, which I guess makes sense, but come on, it's been a while. Justice for Porygon, man. Phineas and Ferb is inspired by a schizophrenic girl's diary. This entry refers to the theory that the show Phineas and Ferb was inspired by a girl named Candace Flynn, who lived in Russia. Her parents separated when she was little, and she lived with her mom, who did not pay much attention to her. Her mother soon gave birth to Candace's half-brother Phineas, who had a hyperactivity, as well as her other half-brother Ferb, who was mentally handicapped and could not speak. She soon would imagine her brothers building things and having adventures, which she would soon tell her mom. Her mother would then bring her to a psychiatrist, of course named Heinz Doofenshmirtz for some reason, who diagnosed Candace with schizophrenia and prescribed her highly potent medicine. They did not help her, and instead worsened her condition and led to her trying stronger drugs. Since nobody believed her stories, she wrote them down in a journal. She eventually committed suicide, causing her mother to find her diary, which she soon sold to Disney. Kablam Episode 29. This entry refers to a missing episode of the show Kablam. An anonymous user added this episode to the Kablam's website guide on TV.com in the early 2000s, with the plot that revolved around the characters Henry and June giving out rewards for segments of the show with the final goodbye, as the character June kisses Henry. People believe that the episode was scrapped due to the show's high ratings that prompted it to continue on, while others say that they remember seeing it. The episode eventually was proven fake by the show's creator, Mark Marek. However, many fans have created fan art of the episode anyways. Toho sued Klasky-Csupo because Reptar. This entry refers to how Toho, a Japanese film company, sued Arlene Klasky and Csupo, the creators of Rugrats, due to the character's Reptar's resemblance of Godzilla. Reptar was obviously a parody of Godzilla, basically being a friendly version of the character. Nickelodeon was making a lot of money off the merchandise of the characters, so it was pretty much inevitable that Toho would sue at some point. Disney lost rights to Tarzan. This entry refers to the rumor that Disney lost the rights to Tarzan that started when Tarzan World was not included in the sequel to Kingdom Hearts, when it was actually included in the first one. These fans assume that Disney lost the rights after allowing Square, the company behind Kingdom Hearts, to use Tarzan without permission of Edgar Rice, who owns the original rights to Tarzan. This was also speculated due to the fact that Disney rarely mentions the film or makes much merch for it. However, this whole rumor is untrue. Disney has the animation rights for Tarzan since the 90s. However, Disney can only do whatever they want with their own version. There's not a lot of information on the subject, however, Tarzan World was most likely not in the Kingdom Hearts sequel, due to the fact that it was one of the most disliked maps in the original. Also, Disney probably does not talk about Tarzan much or create merch for it, just because it's not as popular as many of the other Disney films out there. Dragon Ball AF. Dragon Ball AF was a myth of a series of Dragon Ball that followed Dragon Ball GT. This myth began when someone named David Montiel Franco drew a picture of Super Saiyan 5 Goku, which is a hypothetical transformation briefly mentioned in Dragon Ball GT. A website called Majin.com was tricked into posting this image, claiming that Dragon Ball AF was a real thing. They soon realized their mistake and apologized for it, but not before the news spread like wildfire. No official Dragon Ball AF series exists, however there are very many fan-made versions online. Level 4. Gumball, the Downer. The Downer is the 36th episode of Season 3 of the Cartoon Network show The Amazing World of Gumball. The episode is about Gumball's family trying to cheer him up while he is in a really bad mood. Gumball then wishes for his family to disappear, and the whole town ends up doing so. Gumball wanders the town, and a shadowy darkness starts to consume everything around him. His family returns and the darkness goes away, and it's revealed to all be a hallucination. The concept of this episode is really dark, however the original draft of the episode was supposed to be even darker. When I did some digging on what this darker episode included, I had trouble finding out what exactly the community consensus was. However, I believe the original draft included references to when Gumball was running from the darkness, which understandably would be a little bit too dark for this child show. Angela Anaconda Cause a Divorce. This entry refers to a post on 4chan detailing that an Angela Anaconda short caused the OP's parents to divorce. Apparently at the time that this event occurred, the Anon wanted to see a new Digimon movie in theaters. Their parents brought them, but at the time their parents' relationship was very rocky, which was unknown to the Anon. The parents seemed to be in a really good mood at the time, however the Angela Anaconda short started before the Digimon film. The Anon got really scared and started running around and crying, which caused the parents to blame each other. Arguments ensued, and they even got into an accident in the parking lot. This ended up being the tipping point of the Anon's parents' relationship, and the father ended up moving out a month later. David Hasselhoff and Cyberchase. Cyberchase is a long-running children's show on PBS. This entry refers to a screenshot on Twitter of a Wikipedia edit that stated that the late Gilbert Gottfried, who voiced Digit, would be replaced by David Hasselhoff. The tweet went viral and the edit was quickly deleted. Dungeons & Dragons, final episode. Dungeons & Dragons was a show that ran for 27 episodes on CBS between 1983 and 1985. That was canceled due to controversy before the finale could be finished. At the time, the show was complained about by parents who believed the show was too violent and scary for children, and the National Coalition of Television Violence believed that the show was linked to many real-life deaths. The finale, titled Requiem, had its script release, and fan-made versions were soon created. I will leave a link in the description if you are interested in watching. Animaniacs, Minerva Mink. Minerva Mink is one of the characters in the show Animaniacs, and I believe that the reason that this entry is on the iceberg is because her original design had to be revised because it was considered inappropriate for child audiences, which I mean, duh, it clearly was. Originally, she was supposed to not have clothes, but even with clothes in the revised version, parents still complained about her being over-sexualized in a children's show. What's the bright side in this whole debacle? Well, I get to clickbait by putting her in the thumbnail. SpongeBob Adult Party Cartoon. This entry refers to a rumor that Steven Hillenburg was asked by Spike TV in 2003 to create an adult-oriented spin-off of SpongeBob Squarepants. He obviously declined this because we all saw how great Ren and Stimpy Adult Party Cartoon was. Monsters Inc. Uncle Roger. This entry refers to the online hoax that was created about the ending of Monsters Inc. The video showed a drawing next to Sully's face that had two stick figures named Uncle Roger and Mommy doing, you know. This was easily debunked because you could just watch the movie and see that it's not actually there, but the video still went viral anyways. The video was created by a man named Corey Vesapiciano for a digital editing contest for the website called Crack. This digital editing contest was where they asked people to insert X-rated Easter eggs into children's movies. Thank you all for watching the video. This took a while to write and edit, but it was honestly a lot of fun. If you guys have any suggestions on how to improve my videos or any suggestions for future topics, please leave them in the comments below. This has really helped because I am new to this whole YouTube thing, and this is, after all, my first video. I would also appreciate it if you left a like and subscribed if you enjoyed the video. Part 2 will be up soon. I'm Fright from Frightopia. Thank you for watching.